Hey Bat fans, welcome back to Room 237, and I got another special video for you. Actually, my most watched video, and probably most commented on, most liked, and the one I'm most proud of is my How to Start Reading Batman comics. I'm definitely proud of that video. I do get a lot of questions about, hey, what do you think about this book? Would you recommend this? Would you put this before that? Is it okay to read this before this? Which I love getting those questions. I don't know if you're part of any like Batman or DC fan pages on Facebook, but the smallest thing, people will treat you like you're an idiot, that you don't know anything. So it's nice to be treated like I know what I'm talking about. Stay away from those fan pages, they're awful. But I love those questions. I love being the guy people will come to for comic book advice. I'm very passionate about comic books, so it's very humbling and honored. It makes me feel honored that people want to know my opinion and want to go by what I would do. So because of that, actually last night someone asked about a book that when I thought about it, I was like, fuck, I really should have put that in How to Get Started, because it is mandatory reading. It is a definitive Batman book, and I forgot about it. So I figured, why not make a How to Start Reading Batman Phase 2? So keep everything in mind from the last video. I have continuity, out of continuity, Elseworlds, New 52. I will tell you where these go, so keep your list handy so you can plug these in. This video is not going to be as lengthy as Phase 1. That was just to kind of get you going and get more books under your belt. This one's going to be much shorter. I would have added a couple more, but Phase 3 is going to be like this whole section here. Phase 3 is going to be a longer video with a lot more books. So this one's going to be a lot shorter. But first, this actually goes after The Man Who Laughs. I would still read those books in the order I gave you, but we have Batman and the Mad Monk. I would put that after The Man Who Laughs. And the book that I was asked about, where I was like, shit, I really should have put that in How to Start, is Batman: A Death in the Family. This is mandatory, required reading. This is a defining moment in Batman's history. It's Batman's greatest failure. So yes, this is very mandatory, but first, I would get these two books. I would get Second Chances, which is the Jason Todd post-crisis origin, and then I would get Jim Starlin's The Cult, which is a good horror story. If you're familiar with Stephen King, you know Bernie Wrightson's artwork. I mean, he did the comic book Creepshow. He did Cycle of the Werewolf. So, and I would put these... actually, one book I don't have. So if you have your list handy, because there's one I don't have that I'm going to give you, so... Still with Year 1, Man Who Laughs, Long Halloween and Dark Victory, the way that is, or Man Who Laughs, after that. So you can keep that trilogy as intact as possible. Put this after The Man Who Laughs. Then after Dark Victory, get Batman Year 2. It's not that good of a book, but it goes around there anyway. So Batman Year 2. And then I would get Second Chances, Jason Todd post-crisis origin. then Batman the Cult, then I would read A Death in the Family. I mean, you kind of can read this at any time, but these are really the only 3 Jason Todd books before what happens to him later. So for many years. So I would just get these 3 and read them first, second, and third. And the beauty about this, most modern copies, is like if you get the newer version, like the one I have, it comes with the direct sequel, A Lonely Place of Dying, Tim Drake's origin. So here you have 4 more books that all go together. So I would put that, I mean, I have it more towards the beginning. You could put this after year 2. Another one I have, and this can kind of go anywhere. You can read this as a first book, as like one of the first books, or you can push this closer to the Grant Morrison run. But if you get this Birth of the Demon book, you actually get the whole Ra's al Ghul trilogy. Son of, Bride of, and Birth of the Demon. Which, I mean, the first one, Son of the Demon, goes way back to 1989. So, I mean, you can kind of read them anywhere. It does have a place in continuity, but I would read it before Death and the Maidens, at least. Which actually, you know, yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if you read it before the Grant Morrison run, but if you get this, I'll just pull this for the hell of it. I would probably read it before Death and the Maidens. I guess as long as you read these before Son of Batman, along with the resurrection of Ra's al Ghul. I'll say that. I hope this isn't too confusing. I'll go through it again at the end. And then this is also from like 1990. So I've seen it placed after Nightfall. I don't know if that's where it belongs. I would put it before Venom. But Dark Knight, Dark City. Just a old Riddler story. And then going newer, just because, you know, this is a good history of Gotham book with great art. It's Scott Snyder, Gates of Gotham. It just got a deluxe edition, so Gates of Gotham. And now, actually, just let me look over it one more time. I'm purposely trying to stay away from New 52 and Rebirth because I don't want you to flip-flop. I don't want you to go, read a couple of these books and then, read a couple Scott Snyder ones, then go back to Scott Snyder, which I will have something here for you if you choose to do that. But, so I'm keeping these books out of it, and more so the Grant Morrison run out of it. I know there's a lot that I'm missing, but this is just judged on what I have. Okay, so then we have just some, since I brought it up. Okay. I know I brought up Court of Owls in the last video. If you want to continue New 52, and then maybe go back to post-crisis, pre-Flashpoint New 52. This is the Batman origin for New 52 by Scott Snyder. Volume 4, Secret City, and Volume 5, Dark City. This is a really good origin. This is one of the best Riddler stories you'll ever read. I mentioned that in Earth 1 in the last video. This is the other great Riddler story. The thing about these is you can either... Now, I'm going to say you should read Scott Snyder's run start to finish. even his eternal... In fact, I would even read all of New 52. Batman, Detective Comics, Batman and Robin, Dark Knight, which I believe I have a reading order video for that. I know I have a Scott Snyder New 52 one. But this is incredibly optional, whether you read it first because it's the origin, or you can read it as volume 4 and 5 and look at it as like a flashback. That's up to you. Other New 52 books that aren't, they're in continuity, but they don't really have a place. They're just isolated stories. In New 52 continuity is the Dark Knight run. Starting with David Finch and then finishing with Greg Hurwitz. We have Volume 1, Night Terrors. Volume 2, Cycle of Violence. Volume 3, Mad. And Volume 4, Clay. And again, these are in continuity with the New 52, but they're kind of timeless. They fit in anywhere. You can read them by themselves. It would just be good to get used to New 52 without having to worry about how confusing that can get. And again, this is more scattered and different than the first one because I'm trying to place them with ones I've already given you. But if you do want to continue straight through Scott Snyder's run at least, you can either start with these. I would either start with them or do them as volume 4 or 5. I wouldn't read Court of Owls and then go to these. Read Court of Owls, then do Death in the Family, then go to these. Or do these first as far as New 52. I hope that makes sense. So then out of continuity, we have a couple Elseworlds, like Batman Year 100. You can get this with other stories. I like to have books by themselves. Takes place in the year 2039. It's just an alternate look at Batman. It doesn't say if it's Bruce Wayne, 100 years after the fact, or if it's, just some guy taking on Batman 100 years after Bruce Wayne started. The art is very interesting and different. Batman kind of looks like a monster. But definitely an interesting Elseworlds book. I only have the first volume, but if you're a fan of definitely horror-themed books, look no further than the Batman and Dracula trilogy. There is Red Rain, then there's Crimson Mist. Oh, gonna make me look like a jackass now because I can't remember all three of them. Red Rain. Well, the art is by Kelly Jones, and it is great. Batman going up against vampires. There's 3 of them. This is the first volume. It's the only one I have. Alright, and then just some other ones that could fit in and out of continuity. Doesn't really matter. We have Grant Morrison's first book, Gothic, which there's nothing really special about this version. I actually hate the shit out of this cover. So, it would be worth just getting an older version to have the original cool cover. But yeah, this is Grant Morrison's first book, first Batman book. This was part of Legends of the Dark Knight, the late 80s into the 90s comic series. And then there's also books like Blink, Going Sane. I guess here's your Joker story for this video. It's not particularly a great story, but Joker thinks he kills Batman, goes completely sane, lives a normal life, and then Batman comes back. It's just a Joker story. But then there's also Shaman, which I don't own. Prey, which I don't own. Venom, which I already showed you. Which I'm going to do that again in Phase 3 when I get into Nightfall and No Man's Land. And also at this point, why not check out the rest of Frank Miller? You know, for better or worse, check out his books. I already showed you Dark Knight Returns. Should have been one of the first books you got. There's Dark Knight Strikes Again, which is bad. All-Star Batman and Robin, which I went over. Dark Knight 3, The Master Race. And then this one might be one of the only moderately interesting ones. He co-wrote it with Brian Azzarello, and it's a prequel. The last time Batman went out before he retired. Yeah. I mean, I guess the only other thing I could really show you, just to get some other stories read. I mentioned Legends of the Dark Knight, late 80s into the 90s comic series, but there was also a web series, I think in 2011, that they did put into comics. There's 5 volumes. It's just some of the best writers in comics getting to tell their own Batman stories. It took me forever to find volume 1, but I eventually got all 5. Alright, so again, the added continuity ones don't really matter. But, so for New 52, if you haven't read Court of Owls yet, but you want to get into New 52, stick with it. And you can either start with this or just read 1 through 10 with Batman Eternal in there. I do have a Scott Snyder video, so go check that out. But there is also these 4 New 52 Dark Knight volumes, standalone stories. And then, as far as the main continuity, post-crisis, pre-Flashpoint, this can, you know, you can read this as early as you want. After you, well, let me do the more important ones first. So, Batman and the Mad Monk. Even if you read those 5 important ones first, you can read this and put it after The Man Who Laughs. Then I would get Year 2. Then after Year 2, I would get Second Chances, Jason Todd Origin. The Cult, good horror story with Jason Todd. Then I would get A Death in the Family. I know I should have put it in the last video, but I didn't. And these newer versions have A Lonely Place of Dying. Definitely read them back to back. I mean, they're in the same book. If you're going to read A Death in the Family, just read these as a trilogy with A Lonely Place as the last book, which wouldn't make it a trilogy. And then you read this after, you know, just a good Riddler story. And then these ones. You could read them at any time. Definitely read these before Death and the Maidens. It could either be an earlier on book, or it could be your lead into the Grant Morrison run, which I do have a Grant Morrison video also. I hope this list works. Oh, and towards the end, I mean, read this after, before or after. I believe this is after Black Mirror. For some reason, I thought it was before. Came out the same year. Read this back to back with Black Mirror. I mean, go ahead and read it after. I'm not entirely sure I'll actually look that up for you. I'll see what it collects. Gates of Gotham 1 through 5. Okay, so that's not going to tell me. This is like right before Flashpoint anyway, so read it either then or around Black Mirror. But yeah, hopefully you had your list available for that. I really should have considered how hard this was going to be to plug in with video, with the last video with books I've already given you. So I really apologize if it's that confusing. So yeah, I've already done a video for Grant Morrison, done a video for Scott Snyder. And I think I've done a whole video for Rebirth and New 52. That's the reason why I haven't given you Metal or The Batman Who Laughs yet, because it is part of Rebirth. So I'm really saving that for the end. I hope this helped you. I hope it was as easy to understand as my last video. If not, give me some feedback on how I can make the Phase 3 easier for you. And if you have any questions, feel free, and I'll do my best I can to explain it for you. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and enjoy your comics.